Welcome to Super Talk Outdoors from the Open Season Property Studio. We are so happy that you joined us because you know what? This is the place we go every single Monday at lunchtime to celebrate the great outdoors, the world-class outdoors of the state of Mississippi. Because as I say every week, this is the capital of the outdoors in America. It's already November the 18th, 2024. Where did this year go? My goodness. As gun season fast approaches all across Mississippi in this coming weekend. Listen, I want to thank you for joining us. We are all sort of thanking God that we've gotten rain, that we've had no frost. For those of us who planted our food plots late, they're getting lush. For some people who planted early, they've had some army worms and maybe a little bit of drought. And we've heard those stories on this show more than once. But you know what? As we get ready for this time of year, we're looking forward to some fun times at the camp as we bring our family and our friends together. And I've been in the Delta just about every single weekend as we've been preparing for the season. Food plots are in. Strategic rain has happened. Fertilizer is out. Another strategic rain has happened. We've been able to get a lot of work done. And we also built a mud room this year. My buddy Mark Creech, who I've referred to on this show before as MacGyver, Mark can literally do anything. I mean, he is a craftsman, but I've laughed before that he could take masking tape and chewing gum and fix a diesel engine. That's how talented this guy is. So I'm actually looking forward to having Mark on a future show. I finally convinced him to join me for a show so you can hear his background and get to know this guy I call MacGyver, a lot better. So anyway, yeah, today we got a really special show. I had the opportunity to watch as Will Primos, the founder of Primos Hunting, as we all know, one of America's top-selling brands of game calls and hunting accessories in the U.S., was inducted into the Legends of Outdoor Hall of Fame back in August the 17th in Springfield, Missouri. This was the 22nd annual induction and banquet awards of the Legends of Outdoors. And you know this well if you're a regular listener. Will's a great friend. He's also a regular on this show. He's a passionate outdoorsman and conservationist, and he's a mentor to millions of people across the United States and has been for decades as a result of his hunting videos and his television shows. He loves the outdoors, and he's giving back in big ways. And we're going to talk a lot more about that as we go forward. But Will has done amazing stuff, and it's amazing that he didn't get recognized a long time ago. Maybe we'll hear some of why that didn't happen. Probably has something to do with Will not wanting to be recognized. But I tell you, the good news about Will is by having him be recognized, all of us get to focus on his story, his inspiring work that he's done, and his commitment to conservation. And that brings wonderful attention to what we all want, and that is to be able to enjoy the outdoors with our kids and our grandkids for many, many years to come. So I'm thrilled to have my friend Will Primos on the show with us today, and the guy who nominated him, Mossy Oaks, Cuz Strickland, also a great friend and a good friend of this show. Cuz and Will, how you guys doing?
Just great. Good to be with you.
Hey, so Cuz, let me ask you a quick question before we get started here.
Yeah.
Will probably should have been recognized a long time ago. I bet that has something to do with Will, doesn't it?
Oh, 1,000%. I've called him, I don't know, 3 or 4 times, and he's like, "Nah, I don't." He wasn't interested. A decade ago, no, I'm not. I appreciate you, blah blah blah. And finally, I said, "Look, if I have to come to your house and put you in my truck, we're going to Springfield, and you're going in." And he said, "Okay, if you're going to be there, I'll go." So, that's just the way he is. But I can tell you this: when he left, he was glad he went.
Oh,
yeah. We'll get his impressions about that here in a second. But the Legends of Outdoors Hall of Fame, tell us a little bit about the history behind that, Cuz.
It was a wonderful guy named Gary Mason up in Tennessee. He said he was watching TV. He was watching some kind of induction Hall of Fame thing, football or something. He told his wife that he was looking on the internet, said, they don't have anything for the outdoors. And she said, well, you should start one. And he just actually did it, drew out a logo on a napkin. It's a pretty cool story. And, the first class was like Harold Knight and David Hale. I mean, it's pretty heavy on the fishing back then, but it has this grown, and then you see, Fred Bear and people like that in there. It's a special time. You really have to go to one to feel it, because when somebody gets inducted, there's usually some family members there, and there's a lot of tears, and they say stuff there they had normally talked about. All those people that get inducted, they all have a lot of common threads. One of them is they don't do good patting their own chest, and here's a chance for somebody else to pat their chest. And when you hear some of those accolades, you go, "Holy cow! I didn't know that." And it's more for their family than it is for them. But I mean, there's no way that I was not going to let Will Primos be in there. I kind of help them with some of their media and stuff. But it was a chore. I'm telling you, it was a chore.
Hey, Cuz, real quick, I'll tell you something interesting, and we'll come to Will here coming up. But I started when I became publisher of the Sun Herald back in 2001. One of the very first things I did is start what was called the South Mississippi Leaders Awards, and top 10 South Mississippi leaders, and then we also recognized the top 10 leaders under 40 years old. And when I would call them to tell them that they were selected, there is known as the One Coast Awards today. I would tell them, listen, this is a great opportunity for you to get recognized for your leadership. It's going to be great for your family, but more important, it's an opportunity for us to hold you up as an example for others to follow. That's what we really want to do. We want to inspire others to want to give back to the community. And, when you think about over the years of this particular Hall of Fame, you think about who's brought into it, the influences they have, their social media networks. What a great opportunity to hold these people up as an example, isn't it?
It is. And when you hear their stories, and then, like when Will went in this past August, that room was, it was standing room only. It was a big hall too, but there was a lot of young kids in there. And a lot of them came up to me, came up to him, want to have his picture made, because they find it hard to believe that you can make a living doing something you're passionate about. Now, when they hear the stories of the work that goes along with that, some of them may extinguish their flame a little bit, but it's very humbling. And I feel like Will was humbled going in there, but it may be the only time you get to hear the story, because they're not going to talk about themselves.
Yeah, no, Will, I've known Will in that way as well. He prefers to kind of stay behind the scenes. But what I find about you, Will, is that maybe the older and wiser you get, the more you realize that when you do speak up, when you do add your voice to something, that it matters, because people pay attention to what Will Primos has to say. But how was it for you, man, to be there that night and get recognized?
It was incredible. Like Cuz said, for years they've tried to get me to do this, and I just didn't feel that I didn't. That's not what I did. I wanted to make a living. I wanted to share my love of the outdoors. Early on, somehow or another, it came to my mind as video became available. We began to do things. Cuz was the first architect of the Truth series. Did such an incredible job, and I realized how many people we were exposing to the sport of turkey hunting. That's what the Truth started with, was turkey hunting. And so if you can teach people to understand something, to know about it, and to love it, they'll want to protect it. And so that became my driving force. So I guess maybe that's why we were as successful as we were, reaching as many people as we did, is because the mission, the motive, bottom line, was to do good and to share what we love. And we get so excited, we go shoot video, and Cuz and I run into the TV just to play it, and it just really struck home with me how many people that we've touched and reached. And so it comes with a territory that you didn't know it was going to come with. So I'm humbled by it. Yesterday I was walking into a restaurant. I'm in Bozeman, Montana, and I was walking into a restaurant at the Best Western, and I'm walking in with another guy, and all of a sudden somebody behind me goes, "Will Primos," and just to be recognized and to realize how you've touched their lives. Oh man, it's unbelievable. To have a conversation with him about how you touched them and fueled their desires to be a part of the outdoors and to want to protect it and want to love it. So anyway, it was an incredible honor, and the biggest honor probably, which brought me to tears, was to have Cuz there.
Yeah,
And
I think that's so awesome.
I
In
mean,
fact,
him and his family, his grandchildren, it just was incredible.
we're going to pick it up right there, in fact, when we come back on the other side. But this is Will Primos and my friend Cuz Strickland. So thank you for joining us today on Super Talk Outdoors. When we come back on the other side, we're going to continue the conversation. Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors from the Open Season Properties Studio. Listen, Open Season Properties is a full-service real estate company with a team approach to philosophy that ensures your needs are of the highest priority, whether it's rural land sales, residential, or commercial properties. Open Season Properties markets and sells real estate in Mississippi, Louisiana, Arkansas, Tennessee, Alabama, and Georgia. And they're dedicated to the development of long-term client relationships and unwavering commitment to service. Go to openseasonproperties.com to learn more. We're thrilled to have them as the studio sponsor of Super Talk Outdoors. Now back to my friends Will Primos and Cuz Strickland. We were obviously talking about this wonderful honor that Will got, being inducted into the Hall of Fame of some of the most important outdoors men and women in the country back in August. And you were saying before we went to the break, Will, how special it was to have Cuz there with you and to have his family and so on. You mean that because you guys go back a long way, don't you?
Yes, we do. And back to 1986, Cuz, when you came to work for Primos. I mean, it's one thing that people give things lip service, but here's Cuz with his wife Pam and his grandchildren, and he's there to help recognize and celebrate the contributions that not just me, but the Primos company and all the people associated with it over the years made possible through video and through all of the products that we made. And our relationship with Mossy Oak, it's been so strong and so incredible. What a great product and a great brand, and to have Cuz there representing them. And I'll have you know, Cuz was honored while we were there too. Cuz was selected as the official spokesman for the Outdoor Legends Hall of Fame.
Wow.
So, I mean, for his communication skills and his contacts and his social media and what he does is pretty dang strong.
I would say it is. Because, coming back to the night where Will and others were honored, tell us what that meant for you.
Well, it meant a lot because I was trying to get him in there for like 10 years. And I didn't go to the first two, but I've been to every one since then. And I can't ever recall Gary Mason, who runs the thing. He is a great Christian, heart of gold man. I can't recall him letting somebody introduce one of the inductees. He always does that because he has a written Bible, which works. And he came up to me and he said, "Hey, do you want to introduce Will?" And I went, "Yeah, are you kidding?" So that kind of threw me off a little bit, but he knew the relationship. And it was special because back in the day, we were just running with scissors. Will had a vision, Toxie had a vision. We were just doing stuff, and nobody had any idea of the outcome of how. And it's like how many. Will said it. How many people it would reach. Nobody could have introduced him better because I told a couple old stories, and I'm telling you, there was a lot of people there to see him. Last year, one of the top bass fishermen in the world was inducted, and a lot of people were there to see him. This one, there was a lot of people there because they were lined up. Sign my hat. Can I take a picture? And he gets that, but it was like that was pretty cool. They let me introduce him, and it went flawless. And I was glad I was there to do that because. And I know where all the skeletons are. I tell everybody.
It was quite the honor.
Hey, listen, guys. This is the reality of life, and that is that time flies so fast.
Gosh, does it?
Young people who don't realize that they'll wake up one day and do as we're doing, look back and think, gosh, where did all that time go?
Yeah.
But I think about you two coming together and the stories, Cuz, that you told on this show back in the early days of Super Talk Outdoors, joining up with Will and lugging that big camera around. And I've said, it's the two of you that together that really revolutionized, outdoor video and outdoor TV. And, you go back to lugging that big camera around and then fast forward to that event. Where did all the time go, Cuz?
It's amazing. And it's crazy because it's like a full circle. I got grandkids now. They're kind of grown. I'm trying to stick around there long enough to get great grandkids, but these young kids are different. And they're real. Of course, they grew up with these things. And there's three of them are boys, 17, 16, and 12, and they're not easily impressed. And they ask a lot of questions. I personally have a lot of faith in that age group because they kind of think things out. And they were real excited to hang around with Will Primos. And I asked him why that was like, and one of them said, well, he's really good at teaching, blah, blah, blah. And Cranky, the youngest one, he looked at him and said, Pop, he just tells the truth. And I went, what a profound statement from a 12-year-old. And that's what young people are looking for. And here's the deal. You can go back right now and take the Truth One. If you could find a VHS player, put it in there and play that video. And it was like, man, that was good. And that's 30-something years later. Personally, kind of proud of that because it was the way it was timed. And, of course, we had a lot of edit help with Jim Dollarhide there in Jackson. But it was almost divine intervention, laying that format out, doing it right. And it's just been timeless. And a lot of that's the vision that he had. So, yeah, it was a big honor. It was probably the best induction ceremony I've been to yet.
Because isn't it interesting that Cranky would have that observation, that he would be wise enough to understand the importance of it. And I think, that's one of the things that made the Truth About Hunting video series and obviously TV shows so popular is because, and you guys probably didn't realize it at the time, but that the sporting side of hunting and the TV side and video side of hunting would become so much about staged hunts. And people who want to go experience hunting, well, they're not experiencing staged hunts. They're experiencing, all the trials and tribulations of hunting. Sometimes you miss, sometimes you there's a lot of ragging that goes on. But who would have known, Will, that your commitment to the truth, literally the truth, would be one of the calling cards of your success?
So before we even knew the name of the series was going to be The Truth, the theme was in my head. We're going to show it like it is, but the word truth hadn't come about at all. And we are down at Rattlesnake, Russell Davis's place, hunting. We call this turkey up, and I miss him. This is when it really hit home for Cuz what my vision was for this video, because we didn't even know there was going to be a number 2. And I missed the turkey. And I jumped up and I ran out there making sure I didn't wound him and he was flopping around something, And I came back just dejected as all get out. What's that dog's name, Cuz? The comedy dog that.
Oh, I forgot. He goes.
Yeah.
The big dog in the cartoons.
I think I've got it on my phone. I got to turn my phone on to be able to look at it because I keep forgetting the dog's name. But anyway, it was a comedy series back then. And
Foghorn Leghorn.
Going,
what was it?
Laughing like that.
Foghorn Leghorn was the dog's name.
Could you try again?
And so I said, Cuz, did you get all that? What? I cut the camera off when I started laughing. I said, well, we're not going to recreate anything, but we're going to recreate that. I'm going to run back out there while I got the energy, and I don't want you to turn the camera on. I want you laughing like that on camera. So he realized that this is the truth. This is what makes hunting and our love of it so much fun. And so we redid that for the Truth One, which became the Truth One. And for those that haven't heard this before, the way the Truth name came about, it's the season's over. Cuz had taken anybody he could. I had another job. I was in the restaurant business with my family. I'm working. I can't go that much. I've got to go 2 or 3 times. And so Cuz took anybody he could, and we sat down. We're looking at the footage, and Cuz said, "I think we got about 12 good hunts." And I said, "Great." And he said, "I don't know what we're going to call it." I said, "I don't know what we're going to call it." And Cuz said, "I know one thing. It's the truth." And I went, "That's it, the truth." And that's how it came about. And then what's really crazy is we've now gone through the next year, and we've got all this other footage coming together. And we're all sitting there, and Cuz says, "What are we going to call this one?" And I said, "Have you lost your mind? The truth, too."
And the rest is history.
Yeah, the rest is history.
Hey, listen, Will, I had Jordan Blissett and Lake on the show last week, and Jordan was telling about a recent great trip that he took, I think to Missouri and then to Kansas, and he had incredible hunts in both places. But he was doing his, doing his calls and bringing them in, and it was just he learned so much from you guys, and he's living that dream now, and it's so cool to see it actually. Hey, when we come back on the other side, we're going to talk a little bit more about the early days and some fun stories. We'll see you after this break with Will Primos and Cuz Strickland. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors from the Open Season Property Studio. Listen, are you looking to purchase the perfect piece of hunting property, upgrade your farm equipment, or have you been dreaming of owning your slice of heaven out in the country? Look no further than Mississippi Land Bank for your financing needs. For more than 100 years, farming families and landowners in North Mississippi have turned to Mississippi Land Bank for all kinds of financial solutions, whether it's for land, equipment, or livestock. For more information, visit mslandbank.com or go by and see one of their friendly staff at any of their offices. Mississippi Land Bank. Okay, back to this fun conversation with two legends, literally, in the hunting community, Cuz Strickland and Will Primos. Will, you look back on your time just doing what you do. There have to be more stories to tell than Carter's got liver pills.
Well, some of the greatest ones are the times with Cuz we're in the woods. I mean, there's just so many words that people take for granted that have become part of the vocabulary of a turkey hunter. And people don't even know where they came from, but they came from the Truth series, like Limhanger and Roosted Ain't Roasted and just all kind of stuff.
Yeah. So Cuz, what about you?
Oh, it's amazing. I did a couple of years ago, I did what they called a campfire with Cuz at the NWTF convention. And they had a lot of seminars. Well, this year, that year they didn't really have seminars. I said, "Well, how much time you want me to fill?" He said, 2 hours. Can you do it? And I went, "Oh yeah." And I wrote down like 4 things about the truth. And the people just love stories. Everybody's got a story, but the one they crack up the most to is we were down at Russell's place down there, Rattlesnake, which was a special place, but it was kind of old, and it had been there a long time. Right at the end of the season, we had one more outdoor rider coming in, and we were doing a lot. I was pulling double duty. Will was pulling double duty. He was running that restaurant. It was crazy how tired everybody was. And Jimmy or somebody was bringing him down after lunch. Well, I was going to cook supper starting early, and I put this old barbecue pit out in the front yard and started some charcoals with it, because I was going to cook some chicken quarters. Will's always been a healthy eater, so we didn't do steaks. It was chicken and vegetables. But anyway, I sat up there on the porch letting the coals heat up, fell asleep. Anyway, I was dreaming that there was this gigantic fire. And when I woke up, I was in a panic, it was kind of REM sleep. And I looked up and the whole front yard was on fire. And Russell Davis had these honeybees right over there next to that fire. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, that thing, it was just leaking fire down. Started a grass fire. So I hollered at Will, screaming, "Bring me some water." And I ran out there and I turned around. He was asleep, taking a nap. He come running out the door in his underwear with a glass of water about that big. And I'm like, that ain't going to get it. We did find a hose to put the water out, but it was like that sleep. There was a lot of sleep deprivation that first year. The last day of the season, the very last day, I took Jimmy to one of his spots up near Vicksburg, Rolling Fork. And it was the last day of turkey season. And look, I had been gone every day. And I told my wife, I said, tonight we're going across the river to the sandbar. We're going to have a nice supper, all that stuff. Anyway, went hunting with Jimmy. I don't think we killed anything. And I was so tired, I pulled over on the side of the road in Vicksburg, right where 61 forks off. I pulled over on the side and I said, I'm going to catch me a little nap. It was like 1 o'clock. And I said, I don't need to be driving this tired. I was taking my wife out that night. Keep this in mind. Next thing I hear is pecking on the glass window. I had rolled the window up pretty much. I hear this pecking. I open my eyes. There's a highway patrolman standing there, motioning me to roll the window down. And I got it down. He said, are you Mr. Strickland? I went, yes, sir. He said, call your wife. And he turned around and walked off. It was 7:15 at night. My little 15-minute nap was 6 hours, just like that. Needless to say, after my
you're there. Go ahead.
That's about all I had for a while. That's all communication. It was just like I said, running with scissors. Everybody was overworked, and but we were having so much fun. Didn't anybody care?
Yeah. Well, you're smiling hearing these stories.
Oh, they go on and on and on.
Yeah. And it's one of the things that made your TV series so popular is that we got to see guys doing what guys do when they're at the hunting camp, ragging each other, cutting shirt tails off when you miss deer, and just loving the culture in a very truthful, authentic way. I mean, that's the key to success, really, isn't it?
Yeah. There was another short story. Cuz and I were walking on the edge of this pasture, and Cuz starts cutting, trying to locate a turkey. And so he's almost through with cutting, and I cackle, and turkey gobbles. So we didn't kill the turkey. We, got him to come a little bit closer, but we didn't kill him. And Cuz said, that is going to be known as the Rodney Shuffle. And I went, Rodney Shuffle? What are you talking about? He said, when we do that, I promise you, whoever hears it is going to get no respect, just like Rodney Dangerfield.
The Rodney Shuffle. You know, Ricky, the same, Toxie and Will have a couple of things in common. One of them, it was always check your ego at the door. It never was about them. It wasn't about Toxie. It wasn't about Will. It was about, grabbing stuff and showing people and all that. And there's a big lesson to be learned in that, because if you get on social media and look at the influencers, every picture is a giant whitetail buck. Not everybody can relate to that. Nothing wrong with having that dream. I may go this afternoon. I'm gonna be sitting there going, man, I hope Millie Grindy steps out, knowing he probably ain't. That was never in either one of their minds. It was always about let's be relatable to everybody. That's a pretty cool vision to have almost 40 years ago. And I just don't ever forget that. I think that's the coolest thing. And I think that's why some of their fans are so young. They get that. So hats off again, Will.
Hey, what's interesting is, let's take the Primos Truth About Hunting TV series. You can watch it on YouTube. What we do at the camp is we'll just we'll call it up on YouTube and just let it be in a loop. And it will, it'll feed Truth About Hunting series from all over, from many years past, or it will, factor in a few, like guys from the hunting public, for example. But what it ends up doing is it ends up introducing, Will, I don't know how long it's been since you've personally been involved, but what it ends up doing is it ends up introducing the show to generations of kids, and to them, you're still doing it. And it just is, in that way, it's kind of timeless. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, you talked about it earlier, how this time flies by. And Cuz and I both have gotten older. I'm 72. And it's like all of a sudden I woke up one day and I went, I'm fixing to be 70 years old. I thought that was old. So I started eating even better, Cuz, and exercising more.
Yeah, that's my story too, for sure. But he's right, because we woke up and suddenly you're looking back on an incredible story of your life and just a brief moment. It's amazing how that works, isn't it?
It is, and it's so fun to watch young people, because they you know, they know every time they go hunting, they're not going to shoot a giant deer and all that. And there's all that true stuff is so relatable. And, you know, it's a bad thing to get hung up and, you know, it's got to be a giant deer, whatever. I just got through doing a bunch of PSAs for the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, Fisheries and Parks. And they got a movement going called "It's More Than a Hunt." And they're trying to get people to shoot another deer. You know, the average hunter in Mississippi, I think it was like 1.5 deer per licensed hunter. And we're getting too many does because everybody's waiting for them giant bucks. But I'm like, they call me and ask me would I be a part of that. So, well, yeah, that's me, you know, because I love talking about the venison and all this kind of stuff and teaching the grandsons, you know, they've learned how hard it is to kill a doe with a bow and arrow in Mississippi. And they've had close call after close call, and they get through, and you can tell, you know, they just got busted or they shot over one's back and had an out of body experience. And they all love watching those early truth videos because they're, like you said a while ago, they're timeless. They show not everybody's going to kill the giant deer and run up the mountain with a pack on his back and camp at the peak. It's okay to hunt in your backyard or down on the hunting camp. And I don't think William ever lost sight of that.
Well, look, you know what's interesting, watching both of you. So you get together in the early days, you do this, because you go on to work with Toxie at Mossy Oak over all these years. And Will, you build this incredibly successful company that makes Primos, you know, basically kind of a brand name that everyone knows. And then along the way, Cuz creates Fistful of Dirt, which is now appealing to an entirely new generation with fresh content on a regular basis. When we come back on the other side, we'll talk a little bit about that, because I think what you're doing there, Cuz, is really, really commendable. When we come back, we'll finish our conversation with Cuz Strickland and Will Primos. We'll see you after this. Welcome back to Super Talk Outdoors from the Open Season Property Studio. Listen, no matter what kind of hunting you're into, whether you're looking for 40 acres or 4,000 acres, if you're looking to buy land, you need someone you can trust. He's a hunting land hunter. Call Lake Pickle at Open Season Properties, and you'll understand why. His number is 601-750-2487, 601-750-2487, Lake Pickle from Open Season Properties. Now let's get back to my friends Cuz Strickland and Will Primos. It's been terrific just reflecting with these guys. I think one of the most important things, Will, that we talked about, though, was that with your wisdom, with your experience, with your notoriety, with this award that you recently got, it is an opportunity for us to focus on conservation and why that's so darn important, isn't it?
It sure is. I mean, the work of the Congressional Sportsmen's Foundation that works out of Washington and protects our hunting, fishing, and trapping rights at the state level, every state, and at the federal level is so important. The legislation that gets passed, it'll sneak by you, and all of a sudden something's been outlawed when it shouldn't have been. I mean, we just defeated the Colorado lion ban. They were going to outlaw bobcat and lion hunting forever and call it trophy hunting and try to take out elk next. And so that got defeated. Thank heavens the election went the way it did, where it seems like a lot of common sense seems to be coming back. So it is the hunter, it is the fisherman, it is the trapper, it is the person that buys outdoor gear, that buys hunting licenses, that supports all the dollars that put the conservation on the ground. If it wasn't for the hunter, we wouldn't have what we have. So people who don't contribute can't, in my opinion, have no voice in the game. We're the ones who support it.
I can't agree more. And one of the cool things, as I was mentioning before we went to break, with Cuz really beginning to get tremendous traction with this Fistful of Dirt podcast, is that you get to tell the stories of the trappers, of the hunters, of people from all walks of life. Some of them we know, some of them we don't know. And you put them on a map, and you get to remind people why conservation is so important. That's gone really well for you, hasn't it, Cuz?
Yeah, it's crazy. And it's, you know, I didn't know, you know, Lauren came in, but we told the story before. She said, "Pop, you need a podcast." And I'm like, "What's a podcast?" And I went and listened to a bunch, and I hated them all. You know, there was F-bombs dropping and people bragging. And I was like, nah. So we came up with a little format, and we did 5 or 6, you know, so that the people could binge listen. But that right after that, I went to the NWTF convention, and there was a long line. You know, we always had a huge line at his booth, sign my hat or whatever. And there was a line there for me and Toxie. And I was leaning out, I was looking at this little boy. He's like 8 or 9. Even the line, I saw his mom walk off and sit down. And he finally worked his way up there. And he's like, I was signing his hat. And he said, Mr. Cuz, I love that podcast. And I went, really? What do you like about it? He said, I like those stories. I don't have any. And I literally thought I was going to start crying when he said that. Anyway, I set him up a turkey hunt with one of the guys over there in the booth, and he got to kill him a turkey. But it's like, you know what? Everybody's listening. And that just happens to be the vehicle or the format that everybody's listening to. And it started out, and I learned some very important lessons. Number one, you can't have Will Primos on enough. That one gets a lot of downloads. But you don't necessarily need a celebrity. People want to be in the club, and they want to know these stories from just regular people. And the unique format is you get an interesting person, have some questions, and just let them answer. You've been on the podcast, Ricky, and I kind of leaned you toward financial stuff and all that, but it was a great podcast. People are interested, and they want to know they're hearing the truth from somebody that's not trying to sell them something. So for whatever reason, it's been a blessing. I just recorded one. I was doing these PSAs for the Mississippi Department of Wildlife, and one of the videos I did in was how to properly process a deer. And they brought a couple of guys from the Mississippi State Meat Lab. Who knew they had a meat lab? His name was Darius Burnett, and he was fascinating. Black guy, handled a knife better than anybody I've ever seen. And when we got through, I was like, I'm just doing a little digging on all the accolades and the awards and stuff he's won. He was the president of this group called Manners. And anyway, I had him on my podcast, and I was like, if I didn't have that format, I wouldn't have been able to introduce him to other people. And it's very humbling that they will give you 45 minutes of their time to let you ask questions.
And people want to hear the stories. I think that's one of the reasons why so many people are listening to Super Talk Outdoors as we speak. And on top of that, when you get the audience, then you decide to get on an issue because something needs to change. You can turn to Titanic when that happens. I've learned that recently, this past year. So, you know, I think we're moving in the right direction. But listen, we're out of time. But Cuz, thank you for coming on as we honor Will today and tell your story as well. And Will, God bless you, my friend, and congratulations.
God bless you, Ricky. God bless you, Cuz. Thank you.
Thank you.
I look forward to continuing to work with both of you as we continue to put Mississippi on the outdoors map as the capital of the outdoors in America. Hey, we're rushing toward gun season. Put safety first. Always put safety first. The people who get hurt the most are the older guys who drop their guard. Don't drop your guard, for God's sake. Stay safe in the outdoors. God bless you, and we'll see you next week.
See you guys.